There are concerns that an animal welfare crisis is looming in New Zealand with a shortage of qualified vets available around the country. VetStaff recruitment agency's Julie South says while it's great news that the government is allowing 30 overseas vets in on special working visas, that's not nearly enough to cover the shortage. She joins me now to talk about what all this means. Hi there, Julie.
Hi, Jesse.
How did we end up short of vets?
It's been happening for years, and vets have been on the New Zealand immigration long-term skills shortage list for years and years and years. And then this thing called COVID happened, and we closed our doors, and it's just got worse.
Well, maybe let's go back to the beginning. Why is there a shortage? Why is this a skill that we're lacking here in New Zealand?
Becoming a veterinarian it takes passion, it takes brains, and it's actually, not many people realise, it's one of New Zealand's most expensive degrees. When you think of, it takes 5 years to become a veterinarian, a qualified veterinarian, and we only have one university in New Zealand that does that, and that's Massey University in Palmerston North. Whereas for medical doctors, when they do their rotations, they can go into DHBs and hospitals to get their practical training. In New Zealand, we can't do that. They can't do that. They can only go to Massey University, which means that it's going to cost an absolute fortune to set up another university, the same as Massey.
So we have one place that trains vets?
Yes, we do.
Do they not take in enough people, or are there too few people wanting to train there?
I can't answer that. I don't know. I do know that...
Well, how many vets graduate each year?
Around 100, depending, because each year, at the end of the first year of study, 50% don't make the cut. So, young men and women go into Massey with dreams of being a veterinarian, and they get to the end of the first year and they haven't got what it takes to go forward.
That will sound like good news to some people. It just means we're getting the best people actually qualifying as vets, right?
Yep, there is that, yes.
Okay. So does something need to change in our education sector? Do you want more places training vets, or do you want to attract more people to the profession? What's going wrong there?
I think we need to hold on to those. It's a whole, it's a multifaceted problem. We need to hold on to those who are already in the profession. We need to attract young men and women into sciences, and we need to get more in to the university and keep them there. Okay,
so let's talk about the other end then. Are you losing trained vets?
Yes, we are. The burnout, the attrition rate happens at about year 10 or so, and they leave. And, they don't necessarily leave because they've had enough, but many of them do. They go overseas. Right now we've got around 2,000 Massey University veterinarians working overseas.
Wow.
We also have those that leave clinical practice and they go into work in what's known as industry. So they go into research and development or into the pharmaceutical companies. They work on the other side of the clinical fence.
New Zealand will be looking pretty good, though. If you're an expat vet working in another country, hopefully you'll have a few more returning home.
We don't have enough returning home.
Yeah. What's the shortage, do you think? How many vets are we short at the moment?
I reckon about 300 nationwide.
Why do they travel overseas, apart from the natural, inclination of Kiwis to do an OE?
Yeah, it is. And New Zealand is a good place. Historically, we have lots of vets coming to New Zealand from Ireland, the UK, parts of Europe, South Africa, who want to do their OE here. And those men and women are experienced vets. Those are the ones that we, right now, are really feeling that we're missing because they can't get into New Zealand.
So just to answer that question, though, why do New Zealand vets head overseas?
I think it's because it's the thing Kiwis do.
Right. So you reckon we're about 300 short, and part of the way the government was addressing that was by putting it on the skills shortage. I guess that means that you have an easier path to moving to New Zealand if you have vet skills.
Yes, if your qualification is registered, your overseas qualification is recognised in New Zealand, and an overseas qualified vet has all the paper that they can get their annual practicing certificate to be registered here in New Zealand, they can work as a veterinarian. Not all Bachelor of Science degrees are recognised here in New Zealand.
Do you make heaps of money when you're a vet?
No. It's a passion profession. They do it because they love animals.
Yeah. But anyone who's paid for a vet before will notice that the bill is quite unexpectedly high.
Yes, and every single one of those clinics is like a mini hospital.
Mm-hmm. So is that part of the problem, though, that they can't earn enough money here in New Zealand?
I think, some of the problem is that when you and I go to a doctor, our visit to the doctor is subsidised. When you take your fur baby to the vet, the government doesn't pay any of that. The way to help that would be to have pet insurance. And I'm a really firm believer that every pet owner should have pet insurance.
Mm-hmm. Hey, what happens when there aren't enough vets? What's the impact?
It's two ways. There's the impact on the animals, and then there's the impact on the colleagues that are picking up or trying to pick up the slack because they're working longer hours, they're not getting their lunch breaks, their tea breaks, they can't take time off to have school holidays with the kids when they want, they're working weekends. Vets and vet nurses work really long hours.
Mm-hmm. Is there a bit of feeling too that, if I've got a sick dog and I can't really afford to pay for it, that you should probably be a good guy and just fix my dog for free, or at least at a discount?
Yeah, and how do you do that?
A lot of pressure, eh?
Yeah, a huge amount of pressure.
And so it's domestic pet owners as well as people in rural areas with, working with farms.
Farmers are really feeling the pinch right now because agriculture is part of, what's keeping New Zealand going right now through this recession that we are in. And we're in spring, which is baby time. So, there's calves, there's lambs, there's foals. Everything is happening on farm. And when you haven't got enough vets to do what they need to do, you can't just say to a horse, who's struggling in labour. Most farmers know how to calve, how to lamb. You can't just say to a horse, keep your legs crossed because we haven't got a vet right now to help you with the cesarean.
Mm-hmm.
It's stressful.
Yeah. So what needs to change then, from your perspective?
I would love for Immigration New Zealand to let more vets into the country today.
Yeah.
That would make a huge immediate difference, a meaningful difference. And not just for production animal vets, which is the large animal, the farming type vets, but for companion animal vets as well, because we've got a shortage across all sectors.
By the way, all these points you're making about vets, do they also apply to vet nurses?
Not so much. Vet nursing, we have a number of institutions in New Zealand, tertiary institutions that train vet nurses, but it's more veterinarians that we have the shortage of.
Okay. Thanks for bringing this to our attention. Good luck and nice to talk to you today.
Thank you, Jesse.